G'day and welcome to the Grow a Small Business Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Truen. Each week, we speak with an owner who has grown a business with 5 to 30 team members to something bigger. Diving into their numbers and unearthing the pain they've experienced, we explore what they did to overcome each barrier and what they would do differently from day one. Let's get into it. Welcome, everyone. Today I'm interviewing Steph Whittle from HVAC Growth Lab. She's based in Austin, Texas, United States. Thanks for your time today, Steph.
Hey, Troy. Thanks for having me on. Great to be with you.
Let's start with how we know each other. Brandon from the 10X agency put us in touch. He's given us a couple of great guests so far, so I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks.
Tell the audience a bit about your business, what it does and how it makes money.
Yeah, so I run a company called HVAC Growth Lab. And for those who aren't familiar with the industry, HVAC is an acronym that stands for heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. So basically the contractors who do all the heating and cooling work in your home, those are the clients that I primarily work with. So what we do is we help residential HVAC business owners who struggle with the seasonal feast or famine roller coaster to upgrade their marketing so they can profitably acquire more customers, increase their average sale value, and turn their buyers into repeat customers for life throughout all 4 seasons of the year. And our mission is to help 500 of America's top HVAC contractors to double their business through profitable marketing by 2027.
Great. Very focused. You've got some excellent KPIs there. And I love that you've really niched down, as you say in America. Fun fact or question for you for the audience taking their quiz nights. Do you know how the Legionnaire's disease name came about?
I probably do, but I don't remember.
It was the late 70s. There was a Legionnaire's conference in a hotel in Philadelphia, and that's when the first Legionnaire's disease outbreak happened. And so they named it Legionnaire's disease.
No kidding.
No. How did you start out?
Well, I mean, if we go all the way back to college, I went to school at West Point in New York, and that's where I first learned to write code. I ended up majoring in linguistics and engineering, but that's kind of how I initially got my start. I was in the military for a few years and then had an interesting conversation with someone on a small airplane when we were in Southeast Asia, just kind of doing an island hopping mission. And he was a Green Beret. He was getting ready to retire. And we were just kind of talking about what his plans were when he was going to get out. And he was telling me about his family business. His father had started this business years ago, and the family was all involved in it. And he personally was becoming more and more involved as he was starting to get ready to transition out of the military. And he said to me, so how about you? What's your backup plan? And I said, What do you mean backup plan? I'm good. I'm on active duty. This is the best job security. Like, why would I need a backup plan? But I knew he was right. It's just, when I had come into the military, it was during the time where we were surging operations in the Middle East. It was like the epitome of job security. We had a hard time recruiting people. We had a hard time retaining people. And that was the situation at the time. But, you start to take these things for granted, but things can always change. And I realized he was right. I did need to have a backup plan. And outside of what I was already doing in the military, like I felt like I just didn't have the right skills to venture out on my own without kind of staying in the defense realm or the foreign service type realm. So I thought about it, and I remembered someone telling me, this is someone I really respected who had a lot of experience in business, and he's like, anyone who's really good at sales should never be doing less than $250K a year in income, and anyone who's really good at marketing should never be doing less than $1 million a year in income. Like, those are 2 amazing skill sets, and you should be compensated for the value that you generate for the company that you work for. And so I thought back to that, and I realized those are the skill sets that I would want to focus on my own, just on the side, developing. And so, I realized marketing and sales and search engine optimization were the 3 things I wanted to start with. So, I taught myself how to write copy, how to write ad copy. I learned how to write some business to business type content, which actually I used in my military career because I was trying to influence some policy decisions. A lot of that was through written correspondence, and that ended up working really well. And then I learned how to do search engine optimization. And that was from a coach who actually was a former Army Ranger. He had jumped into Panama during Operation Just Cause back in 1989, and eventually ended up in the digital marketing world. And so he had, kind of put together this coaching thing, and I went through it and just went all in on it, really absorbed everything, tried to learn everything as much as I could, and then test it out. So I built some websites, ranked them, and a couple months later, I started getting inbound leads. And I was in Central America at the time when I got my first inbound lead. And I was so excited because I was like, wow, this is, someone found me through this, through like getting a website up and ranking on Google. They want to work with me. They want to give me money in exchange for what I offer. Like, I can monetize this skill. That's amazing. And on the other hand, I was like, like, I'm in Central America. Like, I'm working for the military. I felt like sort of this like ethical conflict. And I just realized at that point, like, I have to make a decision. Like, if I'm going to pursue this, it's either one thing or the other. And I started to get more business prospects coming in, and I realized like there's something here. I can really take this and run with it if I want to. And so at that point, I made a decision. What scares me more? And the thing that scares me more is to go out on my own. And I knew that meant that was what was going to force me to grow and get outside my comfort zone. So that's the decision I made. And yeah, and then like as far as the transition from freelancer to like business owner, that really came at it was actually kind of based on demand from clients, because they were like, all right, you can rank my website. Can you also do Google ads? Can you also run our Facebook ads or our social media for us? And at that point, I really couldn't. I didn't have the bandwidth. I didn't have the skill set. And I realized I just need to build a team and bring in the talent. So we went from there, and then I niched down into HVAC just based on the advice of a coach. The best way to scale is to niche down and systematize. And so that's what I did.
Great. And what year did you start out, and how old were you?
Well, like I first had that conversation on the plane back in like 2011. And so like that's really when I got started learning all these skills. And then in terms of like venturing out on my own and taking on strangers as customers for the first time, I would say that's like 2015, 2016.
Yeah, great. And how old were you?
Like
2015 when you
early 30s.
Yeah. And what year did you decide to niche down just into HVACs?
During COVID.
2020.
Early 2020, right when that kicked off. Perfect timing.
Great. No, very wise move to niche down. That's excellent.
Yeah.
Do you have some key numbers you can share to illustrate the growth of the business over the last 7 years?
Yeah. So by the time, I launched the HVAC division like right as COVID kicked off, and that actually was a lot of uncertainty at the time. I didn't even know if things were gonna take off, just because of the conversations that was happening with people, and there was so much uncertainty and fear. But by the end of the year, I'd hit 6 figures, and then we're on track to break 7-figure run rate by March 1st of 2023.
Great, well done. That's great growth. And how many full-time equivalents do you have now? You started on your own.
Yeah, I got 7 now.
7, including yourself?
That would be 8.
Yeah,
so 7
great.
Contractors and me.
Yeah, great. When was the moment you felt like you had succeeded?
Well, I would say the first moment I felt like I succeeded was the first time that I took someone from total stranger who, never met in my life. They had no idea who I was, to paying customer. Like that was my 0 to 1 moment. Didn't really have the time to appreciate that, because it went from like, oh my gosh, this is awesome, to now what? Like, what do like now I got to fulfill on this, so there was really no time to really appreciate it. But that's like an important moment for anyone who's first getting into business. And I would say like the part B to that was the first time that I had an entire onboarding set up. It was like the complete onboarding process was designed and set up that I could onboard a customer without me being involved. And it was like, I closed the deal, I grabbed my fins, I went to the pool, and I, did laps for an hour. And I knew like the client was being taken care of by this amazing onboarding experience. And that was like my second exciting, feeling of success.
Great. Very smart to systematize early on too. And what does success look like to you?
For me, success is being able to do what you want, whenever you want, wherever you want, with whomever you want. It's basically like the ultimate freedom. I'm not at that point right now. So in the meantime, for me, success is working with people that I know I can help and make a significant impact on their business, make a significant impact on their life. And, making a name for myself, being the go-to in my industry, and being able to help whoever I can, however I can.
Perfect question for you. Number one thing you'd recommend to marketing a fast-growing business?
Yeah, it's funny. It might not be what you expect because it's something that I can't personally monetize, but it's relationships. So for me, even just like my ability to build a runway and take off during COVID was because of relationships. It's because of the people I knew, because of people who knew me, because I reached out to people who were willing to give me a chance. And the customers that I brought on during COVID, I still have all of them, minus one. And they've just, we built the relationship. They've stuck with us for years. And there's just no replacement for that. It's, the relationships within the industry, the greater community, and then with your customer base.
Yep. How did you fund the business?
I wouldn't recommend this, but my first 2 years, I funded it through day trading stock options.
Yeah. Okay.
And not financial advice. I would not recommend it. The reason I wouldn't recommend it is, one, volatility, it's risky. And number two, it's a huge distraction. I would wake up in the morning, and instead of thinking about who can I help today, who can I have some move forward conversations with, my whole focus was like, what's the pre-market data right now? What's the NASDAQ going to open at? Like, what open trades do I currently have? Like, it was just totally, it totally conflicted with what I was trying to do. Did it make money and pay the bills? Yeah, it did. But did it hinder my ability to grow as fast as I could have? Yeah, it did hinder that. I would say the best way to generate startup revenue when you're starting out is to get customers and get them to pay you. And that's it. Just go with that.
So you haven't taken investors on along the way. It's just yourself.
No, just me. Yeah.
Yeah. If you were to start up today with plenty of funding, would you go into your industry?
I would. Yeah. And I actually really appreciate starting up without the funding, because it forces you to be creative. It forces you to be resourceful, and you build skills in resource management that you can continue to take with you as you grow and scale. I think sometimes when you have a little too much funding, you start to get sloppy, and I don't ever want to get sloppy.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Can you outline the most stressful point in your small business growth journey so our audience can learn from it?
Yeah, I would say when COVID hit, there was just so much uncertainty at the time. And I remember I was working with a coach, and I was having this conversation with him where I was like, I don't even know if I should be doing this right now. Like, where is this going to go? I did not like the sales conversations I was having with prospects. It was just, I felt really, I was starting to feel defeated, but I just kept putting one foot in front of the other. And the best way that I was able to get, just to start those conversations with people was just by offering value. And that's it. I wasn't asking for anything. I was just sharing with them what I had in terms of what was being published about essential services and things like that pertain to the HVAC industry that people found helpful. And actually they would share it with their friends. And I opened a few doors that way.
What area in business do you feel you've had to work on the most to add the greatest value?
For me, it's outsourcing, because I have a tendency to want to do things myself. And there's a lot of things I've been doing for a long time. I've gotten really good at it. And it's hard sometimes to find people who right off the bat are able to kind of reproduce exactly what you expect and what you want. But I think the important thing is just being able to acknowledge that and allow yourself to start letting go, but to always be a leader, to always be there to supervise, teach, coach, mentor, and help develop people that way.
What have you enjoyed the least about managing fast growth?
I would say quality control. It's difficult to scale and to maintain a certain level of quality without bringing on a lot more workload for yourself. And there's always things that can get overlooked or forgotten, especially with the level of complexity in what we're doing. Sometimes someone forgets to hit a button or forgets to switch on a toggle, or like the Facebook ads manager today is totally different from what it was yesterday. It's just like it transformed overnight, and now we have to refine everything. And so just kind of working through all that. But I think that's just the price of growing, right? And eventually you can kind of hand that off to someone else, and at least if you got the checklist and the systems in place, you can make it go.
What do you love most about growing a small business?
I love the challenge of trying to improve everything by 1%. So the guy who founded Southwest Airlines, I don't remember his name, but he wrote a book called Nuts. And someone asked him, what is it that makes Southwest Airlines so much better than any other airlines out there? Any other airline out there? And he was like, well, it's not so much that we are so much better than everyone else. It's just that we are 1% better at everything than everyone else. And all those little 1% increments add up to this big compounding effect. And so I'm always looking for not only internally, how can we improve upon this or that by 1%, but how, like, what are other people in our industry doing, and how can we kind of take that, adapt it, and make it 1% better? I think that's a really fun, creative mental challenge.
Yeah, the founder of Southwest Airlines is Herb Kelleher. He started that in 1967.
Nice.
What has been the biggest mindset shift for you in your small business growth journey?
Embracing problems. I used to want to avoid problems. And actually that became a hindrance, whereas like, I don't even want to take on more clients because more clients means more problems, but that's like totally the antithesis of what you should be doing. And then a mentor had said to me, like, you want problems. It's not that you shouldn't wish away problems. You should just want to work on yourself more so that the problems don't even affect you. And so that's the mindset shift that I've been working on.
The number one habit you think a small business owner needs to develop and maintain?
Self-accountability. And that's not easy to do. And so I actually really have to I systematize it. So I've never seen the movie 50 First Dates, but I understand the storyline is that Drew Barrymore's character wakes up every morning and she's got total amnesia. Like, she can't remember who she is, what she's doing, what her life's about. And then by the end of the day, was
it Adam Sandler's in the other?
Yeah. Yeah. And then by the end of the day, she remembers, like, she's gone through the whole process where she finally remembers, and then she goes to sleep, and the next morning, same thing. She wakes up with amnesia, has to work through it all over again. And so I find I am actually kind of the same way. Like, I wake up in the morning and I'm like, who am I? What am I doing? Like, what am I working on? What are my priorities today? What's happening? And so the way that I combat that is I have like a laminated sheet where I've got my next 90-day goals, my next 1,000-day goals. And on the other side is like, what are the characteristics and qualities I'm working on developing right now to make myself the kind of person who's worthy of achieving my goals. And I just go through that in the morning, like right after I wake up, and then at night before I go to sleep, I have to remind myself and get myself out of the amnesia state. And then I write down my goals first thing in the morning. I write down my goals at the end of the day. Anytime I feel disappointed or let down, I write down my goals. And they're pretty much the same every day, but I write them down so I never forget. And then I actually keep track of everything on a Google spreadsheet. Because if you think about like the past 1,000 days, right? Probably was like during COVID. It's like, have I lived up to my potential over the past 1,000 days? No, I haven't. I don't think I've even lived up to 10% of my potential. So I thought, well, what if like I just have certain, like, a set of, it's aspirational, but like 20 or 30 tasks every day that I know if I hit most of these tasks every day over the next 1,000 days, like, I'm going to be light years ahead of where I am right now. So that's what I do. I track everything from like what time I wake up to, did I write my goals down? Did I plan out my day? Did I drink 90 ounces of water? Did I go to the gym in the morning? Like all these little things. Did I do my, power list task number 1, number 2, number 3? And then I go through it. And even if I don't check it off that day because I didn't do it, at least I went through the exercise of reminding myself that those are the things I want to be doing every day. And so I don't forget. So that's my method to personal accountability. It seems to be working pretty well, but there's always room for improvement.
Yeah, that's right. Find it hard to define a clear strategy, then communicate it and execute it alongside the rest of your team? Or you currently don't work a simple quarterly strategic plan to boost your team's performance? Our Business Growth Formula online course is perfect for small business owners with 5 to 30 team members wanting to grow. We share the mindsets, habits and tools to be a legendary leader in your business. growasmallbusiness.com. Can you talk how you've added people to the team, some wins, mistakes and advice for those listening?
The nice thing about working with contractors is you're bringing people on board who already have a lot of experience. They're pretty well trained. They're good at what they do. It's just a question of whether they're the right fit for you or not. And the thing that's great about that too is if it's not a fit, you can make the change pretty quickly. And so I've just learned just through experience, being able to identify the qualities that I'm looking for. And I can also identify pretty well if it's not going to work. I'm pretty good at picking up on that early before we move forward. So, but that's a different dynamic from hiring, full-time in-house. So we're going to be transitioning to that soon.
What are some of the things you recommend to building a sustainable and kick-ass culture to help with the growth?
Well, that starts with me working on becoming the type of person that I would want to work for, the kind of person that I would want to look up to. I would never want to hire a team that is all like me, like has the same personality as me. Like that wouldn't work. But how can I live my life on a day-to-day basis and make decisions and take actions in a way that at least if my team were to follow that example, that it would be an amazing team. So it starts with me and the example I set.
Tell our audience how you've handled balance.
Well, I still consider myself to be in startup mode. So for me, balance in startup mode is like riding a bike uphill. It's like the way to stay balanced on a bike when you're riding uphill is just to keep pedaling and moving forward.
Yeah.
I take a break when I need a break. I tend to gravitate toward expensive and time-consuming hobbies. So I've kind of put that on hold for now, and that's okay. Like that's a sacrifice I'm willing to make. I actually really enjoy what I do, and I kind of nerd out on it. And but like I take the time to go to the gym every day. I walk at least an hour every evening. Like for me, that's the best thinking time. And if I need to like really get out into nature, I'll go do that. If I like need to get out of town, I will go do that. But I never want to interrupt my momentum. And so I tend to be more spontaneous about that kind of stuff.
Yeah. How much professional development have you invested in yourself?
A lot. I mean, I can't even quantify it. We're probably talking over $250,000 just in like my own training and courses and coaching and mentorship. And it's worth it. It's the fastest shortcut to where you want to go.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, you've had mentors and coaches. Anything you want to tell the audience about that experience?
Well, not every coach and not every mentor is a fit. Sometimes it's just a trial and error thing to find whose experience and personality matches best with where you are and where you want to go. I would say I have two kinds of mentors, and I have a tactical mentor and I have a strategic mentor. So the tactical mentor is someone who like they are in the trenches. They literally do what I do. They just do it better because they've been doing it longer than I have. And so anytime I have a question about the day-to-day, the day-to-day stuff that like they can answer those questions because they're actually doing it. None of it's theoretical, it's experience-based. And like, you really need that. I've worked with coaches who it is actually turns out to be theory because they're not actually doing it. And it's just not a good fit. And then a strategic mentor is someone who is like well beyond where I am right now. We're probably talking like 3 comma club. And it's someone who lives a lifestyle, runs a business, lives their life in a way that like, I respect them. I look up to them. I would like to model what they do. And so they don't know me personally. I just, I follow them and I try to absorb all the stuff I can that they put out.
Do you have a board of directors or advisors?
No, I don't.
All right, Steph, on our final 5 questions. What do you think is the hardest thing in growing a small business?
Getting out of your own way. I know I have all the resources I need right now to be doing 10 times what I'm doing. I know that's to be true. And I think that's a conservative estimate. It's just, how do I get out of my own way? And every day I'm asking myself that question.
It's good. Excuse me. Favorite business book which has helped you the most?
As of late, I would say Grant Cardone's 10X rule. I love the teaching in there that it's always going to take more effort than you think. It's probably going to take longer than you expect. And, it's just, you can always do 10 times more than you think you can. But at the same time, on the other end of it, it always ends up being better than you ever expected.
Any great podcasts or online learning tools you use for your own professional development?
The coach the coach that I work with has an online training portal that's really helpful. And I really appreciate that and lean on that pretty heavily. And then, along the Grant Cardone vein, he's got like a Cardone University program that is really great for sales training. And I personally use that and would recommend it to anyone who's in the sales industry.
Yeah. Do you want to mention your coach's online training? We can link through.
Yeah, I work with Josh Nelson.
Right. Yeah. We'll link through to that in the show notes. One tool you'd recommend to help grow a small business?
Well, we talked about going from 0 to 1. So when you're just starting out, getting that first customer who's willing to pay you money and give you a chance, you got to be able to collect payment from them. And so, and this was a sticking point for me when I first started. I really didn't, I wasn't really sure what to do, but I recommend something called Wave Apps. I think it's waveapps.com. And still to this day, I invoice and collect payments for my clients through Wave Apps, and it's free. The only thing is you pay for the transaction fee like you would like with a Stripe charge. And it's been a great tool. I recommended it for everyone who's trying to find a solution. I've worked with other paid options and I just didn't like them as much. So that's what I would recommend.
Final and my favorite question. What would you tell yourself on day one of starting out 7 years ago?
I would say get as much experience under your belt as you can. Get as many reps and sets in as you can. And this was a really eye-opening thing for me. I'd read this study that was done about an experiment they did with pottery. So they divided, I guess it was like students, into 2 different groups. And one group of students, they said, your job, each of you, is to make the perfect pot. Like you have all day. You just need to take the clay and make the perfect pot. And then the other group was told, here's the clay, make as many pots as you can. So one group is focused on perfection and the other group is focused on volume of output. And by whatever criteria they had for assessing the quality of the pots, they found that the group that was focused on volume, not perfection, ended up producing the most perfect pots because they had so many reps and sets that they put into the skill and repetition and just the experience of it, that it was just a much better product in the end. So, I have a tendency toward perfectionism sometimes, and I would tell myself, forget about the perfectionism, just focus on the volume and the perfection will come.
Yeah, great. That's a great story, Steph. I'm going to use that. I haven't heard of that, but I love behavioral and psychological studies like that. It's very fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, thanks very much for your time today, Steph. Really appreciate it. I think the audience get a lot of value out of what you shared with us. Congratulations on your growth now over 7 years. You've got a team of 8, including yourself, and you're going to crack the 7-figure mark in a few months. So congratulations.
Thanks so much, Troy.
And for our audience, we would greatly appreciate a review in iTunes or whatever platform you listen to us on. More reviews means we bubble up higher in iTunes, etc. So more business owners looking for podcast help with their growth will find us.